So this morning I'm going to begin my Hanukkah message, and yes, we are near the end of Hanukkah. And you might ask, why did it take so long for me to do a Hanukkah message? Well, the reason for me is very simple. I wanted to wait to see what happened during Hanukkah, to see if there were any inklings, any hints of prophetic events happening during Hanukkah. What do I mean by that? Well, let's go to the book of Haggai. Haggai 2. We'll start in, we'll, we'll talk a little bit about the beginning of it. Okay, this is when Zerubbabel, Haggai was a prophet, Zerubbabel was the governor of Yehuda. And in the 7th month, in the 21st day of the month, the word of, not the Lord, folks, Jehovah. Jehovah never changed his name, okay? So you do not have the right to change his name from Jehovah to the Lord. You just don't. You don't have that option. By the prophet Haggai, saying, speak now to Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel, the governor of Yehuda, and to not Joshua, but Yehoshua, the son of Jehozadak, the high priest, and the rest of this people, saying, who is left among you that saw this house in her first glory? What house is he talking about? The house of Jehovah is the temple. All right, I want you to remember that. Please, folks, remember the house of Jehovah is the temple. How do you see it now? Doesn't it compare in your eyes as is nothing? Yet now be strong, O Zerubbabel, saith Jehovah. Be strong, Yehoshua, the son of Jehozadak, the high priest. It should read Yehoshua, the high priest, the son of Jehozadak. In English, we would understand that better. Okay? Be strong, all you people of the land, saith Jehovah, and work, because I'm with you, saith Jehovah of hosts. According to the word that I covenanted with you when you came out of Egypt, so my spirit remains among you. Do not fear. For thus saith Jehovah of hosts, one, in a few, in a little. This is, remember, one day is 1,000 years to him. But in a little time, on his time, I will shake the heavens, the earth, and the sea, and the dry land, and I will shake the what? The Gentiles. I will shake the Gentiles and delight, the delight. Let's dig into that word a little deeper. To desire, delight, the choicest, valuable wealth of the Gentiles. So you see, folks, you see why you've got to study? Shall come to you, and that's backed up by Isaiah 60, where the doors are going to be open in Jerusalem, so that the wealth of the Gentiles will be brought in day and night. All right? And I will fill this house with glory, saith Jehovah of hosts. All the silver is mine, and the gold is mine, saith Jehovah of hosts. What silver? What gold? That which the Gentiles have in their possession. Folks, you must use Bible dictionary in order to understand what is being said here. And furthermore, to make the point very, very clear, we will go to Isaiah 60. I should have went to Strong's Concordance first, but that's okay. Right? It says, arise and shine, for thy light has come, and the glory of not the Lord, but Jehovah is risen upon you. Who? For behold, darkness shall cover the land, and gross darkness the people, but Jehovah will shine upon you, and his glory shall be seen upon you. Now the Gentiles, the Goy, will come to your light. Why? Because there's darkness in their land. The sun is not shining. And kings to the brightness of your rising. Now we see right here, even King James knows this is the future glory of Zion. That's Jerusalem. Lift up your eyes round about and see. Gather, collect. All your sons from afar, and your daughters will be nursed upon a side. Upon whose side? Well, when we read down here in Isaiah 60, you will see that the Gentiles will have to bring all the children of Israel to Zion. You shall see the stream. Your heart will be in awe. Your tents will be enlarged to grow wide, rachab, to grow wide or large, because the murmuring of the sea, the Mediterranean Sea, those people who persecuted Israel, who destroyed the house of Jehovah a second time, will be overthrown. Half-tack. Overthrown. Not converted to you. Overthrown. Overturned. You see, overthrow, 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 overthrow. Now, and the chayil, the wealth of the Gentiles will come to you. All right, now we've got context in what is written in Haggai, right? Hold on, I've got ahead of myself here. We've got this one. The silver is mine and the gold is mine, says Jehovah of hosts. This glory of this latter house shall be greater than the former. And it was. But wait a minute. What's going to happen at the last end is going to be even greater than the first two, says Jehovah of hosts. And I will give, in this place will I give peace, says Jehovah. Now we go down here. In verse 10, in the 24th day of the 9th month. That would be, I believe, the day before Hanukkah. I believe that's what it is. In the second year of Darius came unto the word of Jehovah, the Haggai the prophet, saying, thus saith Jehovah of hosts, asked the priests concerning the Torah, saying, if one bear holy flesh in the skirt of his garment, and with the skirt do not touch bread, or do touch bread, or pottage, or wine, or oil, or any meat, shall it be holy? And the priests answered and said, no. Then Haggai said, if one is unclean by a dead body and touch any of these, shall it be unclean? The priests answered and said, it should be unclean. Then answered Haggai and said, so is this people, and so is this nation, the people of Israel, before me, saith Jehovah, the Jews, Yehuda. And so is all the work of your hands, and that which they offer to me is unclean. And I now set from this day and onward from before a stone was laid upon a stone in the temple of Jehovah, to go in a heap of 20 measures, but there were 10, and one, and came to the wine vat to draw out, to strip off, 50 out of the press, but there were only 20. Why? Because I smote you with blasting and with mildew and with hail and all your labors of your hands. Utterance, or says Jehovah. Now consider, set today, this day and onward, upward, from the 24th day of the 9th month, the day that the foundation of Jehovah's temple house was laid. All right, so we're supposed to remember that day, the 24th day of the 9th month. Is the seed yet in the barn? A vine and fig tree, and the pomegranate and the olive tree, to lift, to carry, to take. This day will I bless you. This day is the blessing. All right. How? How is it going to be the blessing? How? You see, folks, for the past 5 years, I have gone over this particular passage. And I have explained that the rising of using Paul, the words of Paul in Romans 11, that the rising of the Gentiles was the diminishing of Israel. And Paul said, when the time of the Gentiles comes to an end, Israel or Zion will rise again, even greater than the former. But I have mentioned over and over and over again that it's going to be at the fall of the Gentiles, at the tumbling, at the crashing down of the Gentiles. And I've used many chapters and verses, including the ones right here in Haggai. Verse 20, and again the word of Jehovah came unto Haggai in the 24th day of the month. What month? Obviously it was the 9th month, because he says right here, remember that day. That day and onward. He says it over and over again. So we must remember that day. Speak to Zerubbabel, governor of Yehuda, saying, I will shake the heavens and the earth. So he's saying this again. And I will overthrow the throne of kingdoms, and I will destroy the strength of the kingdoms of the Gentiles, and I will overthrow the chariots and those that ride in them, and the Sus. What is the Sus in Hebrew? Well, in Old Hebrew, it's a type of bird, right? He's mentioning chariots, which are weapons of war. So it would be simple enough to say that Sus is birds, or are birds of war, war birds. Only in late Hebrew will you find this meaning horse. So in early Hebrew, it is a bird. And in context, we go back to Haggai, and you will see that these are implements of war. So it would be warbirds. And the Sus and their riders shall all come down everyone by the sword of his brother. In that day, what day? On the 24th day of the 9th month. The day that precedes Hanukkah. Or you could say the day of Hanukkah. It is right there at Hanukkah. It says, on that day, says Jehovah of hosts, I will take you, Zerubbabel. What does that mean? Begotten in Babylon. What did his name represent? His name represents all of Israel that were begotten in Babylon. Why would he take that name and make it as a sign? Because he's going to take them out of Babylon. That's why it's a sign. I have chosen, I'll make you a sign, or I will choose, saith Jehovah of hosts. Okay. So that day is a sign, and begotten in Babylon is a name chosen for a sign. Shaking of the heavens and the earth. Well, the shaking of the heaven and the earth did not happen this Hanukkah. But some things did. Remember, so in that day, saith Jehovah of hosts, I will take you, Zerubbabel, my servant, son of Shealtiel, says Jehovah, and I will make you as a sign. Now, let's look and see what's been happening lately. This was a few days ago. We're towards the end of Hanukkah right now. UAE Bahrain delegation will take part in Western Wall Hanukkah lighting ceremony. Social activists and opinion leaders from the Gulf nations attend event at Jerusalem's Old City, described by hotel chief rabbi as a Hanukkah miracle. Well, he has a point. Was there ever a time in history when such a thing has occurred? Can you point to it? I don't know if I can. A delegation from both the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain took part Monday evening in the central menorah lighting at the Western Wall in Jerusalem in a ceremony described by the site's chief rabbi as a Hanukkah miracle. The group, made up of social activists and opinion leaders from the Gulf countries, visiting Israel as a part of the Sharka project. Do I need to go to the Hebrew calendar? Maybe I do. All right, let's look it up. Let's see if I can find a good one. This is a good one here. All right, so my Roman calendar says today is the 18th. So the 24th day of the 9th month was the day before Hanukkah. And so Hanukkah begins that particular on the 25th. What is we've got to look at this day, the 24th day of Hanukkah, the day that precedes Hanukkah. We've got to watch this day. Why? Because that's Jehovah said so. Now, in fact, it looks like today is the last day of Hanukkah. And of course, you won't see this video until tomorrow, Shabbat. So let's look at it again. What happened, right? So what day was this? This day was, as they say, December the 15th. So it happened on this day, right in the middle, right? Okay. Now let's look at this particular article. Morocco. Moroccan UN ambassador pledges peace with Israel at Hanukkah lighting. Why couldn't it be any other special day? Why did it have to be on Hanukkah? Why? I'm not saying that I know the answer. Hanukkah is existing together. Hanukkah is loving each other. Hanukkah is building bridges between people and civilizations, he said. This is the Moroccan UN ambassador, folks, talking. Moroccan ambassador Omar Hillel pledged to build a bridge of peace with Israel as he lit the 8th candle of Hanukkah with his Israeli counterpart Gilad Erdan at a special ceremony in New York. There is no alternative to peace. We are all the sons of Abraham, and the sons of Abraham, they always, at the end of the day, will sit together to make peace together. Do you honestly believe this? After all these years, do you really believe this? Well, there's coming a time of testing to prove whether these nations who are proclaiming peace, and among one of those nations who are proclaiming peace is the United States of America through President Donald Trump. Peace plan of the century. But you see, the nations, the Gentiles, will be put to the test now to see if they really mean it. He says there is no alternative to peace. We have seen for the past couple thousand years that man believes otherwise. But anyway, we'll continue. We're all the sons of Abraham, and the sons of Abraham, they will always, at the end of the day, will sit together to make peace together and to build a future together for the next generation, Hillel said at the ceremony. A deep belief in peace, he said, is the reason he stood today to light Hanukkah candles, which are symbols of hope. Hanukkah is existing together. Hanukkah is loving each other. Thank you, Jerusalem Post, for screwing this up. Wow. All right. This is the understanding we have in our hearts, Hillel said. He joined Israel's mission in New York just 1 week after the announcement that his country had become the 4th Muslim nation to sign a normalization deal with Israel under the rubric of the U.S. brokered Abraham Accords. The peace plan of the century, folks. I know they're trying to they're not using that statement anymore. They changed it to the Abraham Accords. Okay. The celebration of Hanukkah is not an extraordinary event for someone from this country, which had a long history of tolerance to the Jewish people whose presence in the country dated back thousands of years, Hillel said. Well, how does that explain that not that many years ago, you guys and your other Arab counterparts acted against Israel when the Third Intifada began? Hanukkah is not a strange tradition in my country. The Jewish people are part of our society, our religion, our people, and our history, he said. Morocco is very proud of its long history of cooperation with the Jewish people, he said. He recalled how during the Holocaust, Moroccans shielded its Jews from the Nazis and blocked their deportation to concentration camps. Europeans sent their Jewish citizens to concentration camps, but the former Moroccan king Mohammed V told the Vichy authorities that in his country they did not have Jews or Muslim citizens, they had Moroccan citizens, and you will not take anyone. Hillel said, "This is the history of Morocco. Morocco is proud that there is such a large community of almost 1 million Jews of Moroccan descent in Israel," he said. And incidentally, folks, there is a trace of Moroccan ancestry, or not Moroccan ancestry, but our ancestry traveling through Morocco in my family DNA. Erdin said that the story of Hanukkah is one of religious freedom where the ancient temple in Jerusalem was rededicated. Isn't that what we just talked about? Haggai 2, verses 18 through 22. That was when the ancient temple in Jerusalem was rededicated, when a single pot of oil miraculously lasted for 8 days. Well, that was a little bit later. But always on Hanukkah or the day before. The deep connection between Morocco and the Jewish peoples date back thousands of years. Renewing this relationship fulfills the dream of many Israelis of Moroccan heritage who remain proud of their roots and have a great love for the country. For many years, these Jews have served as a bridge between us. That bridge is now reinforced by the normalization of relationships, which I am sure will lead to a warm, prosperous friendship, a friendship that will benefit not only Israel and Morocco, but the entire region. Really? I guess he has not read the book of Zechariah. This year, religious tolerance has brought new light into the Middle East and beyond. The new relationship between Israel and 4 countries are explained on the value of coexistence and mutual respect, he explains. I think I need to go to that one particular scripture in Zechariah, all the nations round about. By embracing our differences rather than viewing them as a threat, and we have created a new, incredible opportunity for the future, Erdin said. There has been a shift in the way we see each other. The descendants of Abraham have rekindled our connection, and we are spreading hope and promise throughout the entire world. As we light the last candle of Hanukkah, let us pray that the bright flames dispel the darkness that has crept into the world. Among the event's participants was the ambassador for Bhutan. They even had a representative from Bhutan. And those of you who don't know where Bhutan is, that is in the, I believe it's in the Himalayas between India and China. Doma Tushering, whose country also agreed to normalize ties with Israel last week. And there is yet another very large Muslim country from Middle to East Asia that are in secret talks with Israel right now during Hanukkah. Don't know which one it is. It could be Pakistan. It could be even Indonesia. She spoke of the shared values between the 2 countries that can bridge any divide between them. See, there's a lot of talk going on here. Prove it. Put your money where your mouth is. You see, what's happened with nearly every one of these countries, there was a bribe. For instance, with United Arab Emirates, there was a promise of sale of F-35s. In Sudan, there was a promise of the United States removing them off the terror watch list and other monetary incentives. Morocco, major monetary incentives and a recognition of the disputed Saharan land that the vast majority of the African countries have united against Morocco when they annexed those lands back in 1979. Now, this thing reset. I don't know where I was, but I'll start right here. U.S. Ambassador Kelly Craft said today, though we are not witnessing the miracle of one day's lamp of oil lasting 8 days, we are witnessing a transformation in lands of Abrahamic faith, from the Holy Land in the Levant to the Arabian Peninsula and to Africa. The Abraham Accords have transformed 2020 into a what? A year of peace. You see, folks, that word, it's inescapable in Bible context. It's just absolutely inescapable. They're calling it a miracle of sorts. UAE Ambassador Elena Nusabeh said the peace accords between UAE and Israel was a highlight of an otherwise difficult year. We've seen other countries follow suit, and we can only hope these agreements usher a new era of shared vision for peace and prosperity, aka peace and security, for our region. Hanukkah is a reminder that miracles do happen. Bahrain Ambassador Jamal Al-Rawai observed that tonight's event comes at a very special time. The peace accord between our nations give us an opportunity to enhance stability, prosperity, and peace in our region. As we enter this season of celebration, I would like to wish all the Jewish people in Bahrain, Israel, around the world a very happy and safe Hanukkah. Really? All right. We've seen enough of this peace and safety talk, haven't we? So let's go to Bible Hub and look up all the nations round about. And what is the first thing that you see? You see Zechariah 14. Strong's Concordance. Sorry about that. I always mess that up. Behold, the day of Jehovah. Well, that's just not just any day. No. This is the day of Jehovah's wrath. This is the hour of temptation. This is put your money where your mouth is. This is prove it. So he's going to send Messiah, and we'll see if these nations still remain at peace. Obviously, they won't. The day comes. The day of Jehovah comes, and your spoil will be divided in the midst of you. I will gather the Goy, the nations, against Jerusalem to battle, and the city, that is the East Jerusalem, shall be taken, and the houses rifled and the women's ravished, and half of the city shall go forth into exile. They're going to throw all the Jews out of half of the city. What half do you think that is? Come on, folks. The half that they want and turn into the capital of Palestine, as they say. And the rest of the people will not be cut off from the city. Can't you see the sign, folks? Then Jehovah will go forth and fight against the Goy, as he fought in the day of battle, and his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east and toward the west. And there shall be a great valley, and half of the mountain shall move toward the north, and half it toward the south. And you will flee to the valley of the mountains, for the valley of the mountains shall reach unto Azel, and you shall flee like you did in the days of the earthquake of the king Uzziah of Judah. And Jehovah Elohim will come, and all the Kadosh with him. And it shall come to pass in that day, that is all. He's going to gather up all the holy people from the four winds. Israel, my elect, it says in Isaiah 45 and verse 4. It will come and pass in that day that the light will be rare. Oh, that means there won't be any light. See Isaiah 60, verse 1 and 2. It's going to be congealed. It doesn't say nor dark. The light is going to be rare and it's going to be congealed. What does congealed mean? Kafal mean? It means to be thickened, to condense, to congeal. You won't see jack if you're a Gentile. One day to know Jehovah. That's going to be one day to know Jehovah. When it's going to be so dark, you won't even be able to see your nose in front of you. Day, night, it shall come to evening time, a light. Well, in the evening time, the light is going to be in Jerusalem. In that day will living waters come out of Jerusalem, half toward the former sea and half toward the hinder sea in summer and winter. In the summer, in the fruit of the harvest time. Now, we go down to here. Verse 12, and this shall be the plague, wherewith Jehovah will smite all the people that fought against Jerusalem. You see, they're all going to come and fight against them. These people who are claiming to make peace with right now, including the United States, they're all liars. Even Paul points this out, and so does David in Psalm. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet. Their eyes shall consume away in their holes. Remember what it says in Haggai 2, verses 18 through 22. Everyone by the hand of his brother. Are they going to be firing nuclear weapons at each other? Says everyone by the hand of his brother. Oh, and looky here. And it shall come to pass in that day that a great tumult, confusion shall rise up against the hand from Jehovah shall be among them, and they all will lay hold upon every one the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. That's how it's going to happen, folks. It looks like they're going to be launching nuclear weapons at each other. And Yehuda will fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the heathen round about. Okay. All right, let's go round about, all the nations round about. Rome on the west side, Turkey, Russia to the north, Iran, Iraq to the east, Saudi Arabia, all the Arabian countries, Egypt and Morocco to the south. Those are all the nations that are round about. It says, the wealth of all the heathen round about will be gathered together, gold and silver and apparel in great abundance. What did we just read in Haggai 2? He says, all the gold and silver belongs to him, and he's going to take it from the Gentiles. We just read that. Here we go, right here. There it is again. And so shall be the plague of the horse, and of the mule, and of the camel, and of the donkey, and all the beasts that shall be in their tents. It looks like, folks, they're going to be launching nuclear weapons at each other because it says everyone will be brother against brother. So these nations round about Israel today, they all claim they're making peace. Well, I'm here as a witness today against them with the words of Jehovah through the mouth of the prophets to tell you it's a lie. And they told this lie on Hanukkah, the day of judgment. So is it any wonder that judgment day will come upon them on Hanukkah? I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, but what I am saying is they declared peace and safety to this year. They did. Many of these nations round about Israel, including the United States of America, the greatest country in the world, they say, even as this country is coming apart at the seams before our very eyes. Verse 16, and it shall come to pass that every one that is left, all the survivors of all the Gentiles, which came against Jerusalem, shall go from year to year to worship the King, Jehovah of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Booths. And it shall be, anyone who does of the families of the earth that does not come to Jerusalem to worship the King, Jehovah of hosts, upon that country will be no rain. In fact, we read in Revelation 11 that there will be 3.5 years of no rain because the nations are going to refuse to keep the Feast of Booths. Now, it doesn't say because the nations are going to refuse to keep the Feast of Booths. I'm just saying that there's a qualifier right here. They have to come and keep the Feast of Booths, and if they don't, obviously they won't. This shall be the punishment of Egypt, and the punishment of the Goi that do not come to keep the Feast of Booths. All right. I'm going to come to this at the very last, folks. So, Psalm 69, verse 22. Let their table become a snare before them, and let shalom. Hold on. I have to always use Strong's Concordance, otherwise nobody will see it. Let their table become a snare, a gin, in their face. And let shalom, that means peace and safety, let it become a trap. How? How? I'll give you an answer, folks. When these nations said they wanted peace and safety, they're going to be put to the test. And they're going to be found to be liars. And this test is going to be a snare. It's going to prove them to be the liars that they are, all of them. Every one of them who participated in these Abraham Accords, peace plan of the century, the whole 9 years, every one of them are liars. Now, it said right there in Zechariah 14, it named a particular nation, number one, Mitzrayim. Well, I'm here to tell you, folks, that Morocco and Egypt are both Mitzrayim. They're both Egypt. This shall be the plague upon Mitzrayim and upon any of the other nations who will not come to keep the Feast of Booths. Oh, you say you're going to make peace with Israel. You go and light a candle on Hanukkah for proof. That doesn't mean jack squat. You want proof? When Yehoshua is made crown prince by Jehovah, and Jehovah sits on his throne in Jerusalem, these people from Mitzrayim must come and worship Jehovah the King. And they must do it on the Feast of Booths. And if they don't do it, a plague. Now, 1 Thessalonians 5, Paul was quoting Psalm 69, verse 22, when he says this. Now, I'll get to that one particular point where he makes that quotation in just a second. For the times and the seasons, brethren, you have no need that I write to you, for you yourselves know perfectly that the day of Jehovah comes as a thief in the night. Well, we read in Zechariah 14 that day, Zechariah 14 begins the day of Jehovah's wrath. What's happening? All the nations round about are coming to war against Jerusalem. Why? Well, because an event took place that nobody was prepared for. That's why. And when they shall say, Shalom, peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them, and as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. There's your hour of temptation, folks. There is the trap, the gin, the snare. Let their table become a gin, and let peace and safety become the bait, the lure, the snare, the tripline. Well, guess what, folks? They bit. They ate of the poison lie. And now, what happens next? Read the scripture. You'll know what happens next. They shall not escape. Romans. Romans 2 and verse 9. Tribulation and anguish upon every soul of man that does evil, to the Jew first. When did it happen to the Jew first? We'll go to right here. 1 Peter 4 and verse 17. For now, or for the time is come that judgment must commence at the house of Jehovah. So what did we learn today what the house of Jehovah was? The temple. It happened. It's past tense. I have shown you time and time and time again in history. Vespasian sent Titus, his son, the prince, as is written in Daniel 9, verse 27. The prince of the people was Titus, and he destroyed the house of Jehovah. Just a few short years after Peter made this statement. Judgment first must begin at the house of Jehovah. And if it begin with us, is that word even there? Yes, in our company. If it begin in our company, who was he talking to? Peter was apostle to the Hebrews. What shall the end of them be that obey not the gospel? What do you mean, that obey not? Hold on. Why is he saying, what shall the end of them be that obey not the gospel? The answer to that is in Romans 11. I need to go to Strong's Concordance, because we must have correct context, folks. All right. Now, what we're going to do is read from verse 25 to 31. For I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery. He's talking to the Romans, lest you Romans should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part has happened to Israel until the time of the Gentiles come to the full, or the time of the Gentiles come to an end, as Yehoshua put it. And so all Israel shall be saved. Many Gentiles have a problem with that. I have no problem with it at all. I love it. Because it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away unholiness from Jacob. Because this is my covenant, the new covenant, as written in Jeremiah 31, verses 31 through 34, with them when I shall take away their sins. Now concerning the gospel, they might be enemies for your sakes. Okay. So in that day, they were enemy of the gospel. And they were punished for it. Remember, it said, right here. Oh, no, Peter. I think it's Peter. Yes. For the time has come that judgment is begun at the house of Jehovah. That's on Jerusalem, on the temple, and on the Jews. Okay? And if it begins first with us, what then shall the end be on those that obey not the gospel? Let's go back to the words of Paul in Romans 2. Tribulation and anguish upon every soul of man that does evil, of the Jew first. Why did he have to say that? Because it was going to happen to the Jews first, and then it was going to happen to the Gentiles at the end. But what Gentiles is he talking about? You see, this is the reason, folks, why you must use a Bible dictionary in your study. Otherwise, you'll never understand. Let's see here. The Jew first, and also of the Hellene. Uh-oh. Do you know what that means? Now, I did it. I did a video months ago about are you a Hellene? Something like that. And I thought through that whole particular video, I explained how the entirety of Western civilization is Hellenized. So this is covering the entirety of Western civilization. But glory and honor and peace to every man that works good, to the Jew first and also to the Gentile. And in this way, there is no respecter of persons with Jehovah. So, to the Jew, to their temple, to their homeland came tribulation and anguish. First. Now, if it comes to the Jew first, it must also come to the Gentile, to the Hellene, to Western civilization second. So we continue with 1 Peter. And if it begin with us, the Hebrews, what shall the end be of them that obey not the gospel of Jehovah? What is the gospel of Jehovah? It is the good news. What is the good news? Romans 11. Oh, wait a minute. Romans 11:25. For I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery. Why did he have to say that? Because they obviously were ignorant of it. So he told them, but did they listen? No, they did not. We have nearly 2,000 years of evidence to prove that the Romans did not listen to Paul. What was the gospel? That all Israel shall be saved, because it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away unholiness from Jacob. Because this is my new covenant unto them, when I shall take away their sins. Now, part of that gospel was a light to the Gentiles. That was the part that the Jews did not obey. But the part of the gospel that the Gentiles refused to obey is this what Paul just said. And so because of that, and because of nearly 2,000 years of evidence that the Gentiles, Western civilization, the Hellenes, have rejected the gospel, must come now the destruction of Western civilization. And now we have the leader of Western civilization, United States, and many of the Arab nations, all joining together hand in hand, saying, peace and safety. That is the trap, folks. That is the trip line. What next? We're going to look at one more passage, and I think I'm going to be done. I'm going to look at Revelation. Three. And to the messenger of the church of Philadelphia, write these things, that he that is holy, he that is true, he that has the key of David. No, the man at the Vatican does not have the keys to the kingdom. Yehoshua is given that king. Yehoshua, the Moshiach of Israel, is given that king. And he's going to open that door to Jerusalem, and no man is going to be able to shut it. And that is why the war between the nations round about Jerusalem and Jerusalem is going to begin. And he will shut, and no man will be able to open it. I know your works, and I have set before you an open door, that no man can shut it. So during the time when Yehoshua the Moshiach opens up the door, the Gentiles who kept his word and have not denied his name by using the name Jesus. That's how you deny his name, using the name Jesus. But who recognize him as Yehoshua the Moshiach. They will be able to come in along with all the other Israelites. And the door will not be locked on them. You have a little strength, for you kept my word, and you refused to deny my name. That's right. They call him by his real name, Yehoshua. I will make those of the synagogue of Zeus, Jesus, who claim that they are spiritual Israel, but they are not, and they do lie. And behold, I will make them to come and worship before your feet, and to know that I have loved you. Because you have kept the word of my patience, I will also keep you from the hour of temptation that has come upon the whole world to test, to make proof of, to test, to tempt them to dwell on the earth. Why? Because they said peace and safety. He's going to spare them from the hour of temptation. An hour of trial, probation, testing, being tried, temptation, calamity, affliction. They're liars, folks. It's a big lie. Peace and safety. They say peace and safety. They are lying. They're going to be put to the test to prove that they are liars. Get ready. I don't know what's going to happen next, and neither do you. But we know that what they have done at Hanukkah, is the peace lie. And they're going to be put on trial. They're going to be forced to prove it, and they're going to be found lacking.